Assalamu alaikum girls. I hope you are doing fine and in good health. Okay, today our topic of presentation is types of reading skills. As you know that we are already done with the fundamental of reading skills and introduction to reading skills. Now let's proceed to types of reading skills. Okay, the basic reading skills include vocabulary acquisition, pre-reading strategies, textual comprehension and response techniques. ठीक है. Now, vocabulary acquisition. Vocabulary, you already know about vocabulary acquisition, that once you start reading, you need to learn and acquire new words, right? Then pre-reading strategies, that whenever you are about to read something, you always have your material around you. You always keep in mind that from where you need to take some help or whatever, other than help. Also that for example, when I read a novel, I always have something to drink or eat along with it, right? So those include pre-reading strategies. Not only this, but also when you are preparing for exams, you always keep your highlighter or pencil or pen or whatsoever ready with you. Then textual comprehension, that is to understand what are you reading, and response techniques, that whatever you have grasped, whatever you have understood, you respond according to that. That is your response technique. Then we have types of reading. Types of reading include oral reading, silent reading, intensive reading. Right now, intensive reading is further categorized into two types, that is linguistics and content. And the fourth type is extensive reading, which is further categorized into skimming, scanning, and SQ3R. We will see all these types of reading in detail. So basically, we have four basic reading types, which are further, and two of them are further divided into subcategories. Let's oral reading. Now, oral reading says that it is a complex process which involving mental interpretations based on eye swap of text accompanied by vocalization, right? So oral reading includes complex process. Why it is complex process? Because it involves mental interpretations, different all your capabilities. It involves your all your brain capabilities. Then how? Based on eye swap of of text accompanied by vocalization. Silent reading, you are well aware with this type of reading, because throughout your um, academic levels, you have read it, or sorry, you have heard it, that teachers generally ask you to do your silent reading, which is you read to yourself, right? It is simple reading. Why? It is to interpret the material through series of eye swap. Obviously, you always move your eyes from one word to another, from one sentence to another. That is why it is always written through a series of eye swap, right? Let's proceed to the type of reading, which is intensive reading. All right. It says that intensive reading is a careful, detailed reading of a section of a text. It identifies main ideas that connect one idea to another. Also, identifying words that indicate change from one section to another. In other words, you can say that it helps students to develop reading skills, grammar, and vocabulary. How? Because as the word indicate, intensive reading, it means that it is not very extensive. It is not very general. You have a short text, right? You have a short story, you can say, and which is given to you, and you read it. And why you read it? You um, chalk out the detailed meaning of that particular text, right? You have the detailed meaning of that one or two paragraphs which is given to you. You go for detailed and deep reading of that text. Then further, it is further divided. Intensive reading is further divided into linguistic reading. It is further divided into linguistic reading, which is phonetically regular and fit for a pattern. How it is phonetically regular? Because linguistic reading is based on the vocal of a word, right? Vocal sound of a word, that how a word is formed and how it is pronounced. On the other hand, the second type of intensive reading is content reading. Most simple reading to learn, and it encompasses all the skills and ability required for student to read complex information. How? The it is simple yet complex. You can say that it is kind of a oxymoron probably. Because why? Because it involves content reading involves all your senses to work. When you are reading in detail, in depth, then you have to be more, you can say that you need to be more focused, you need to be more concerned about your text. Only then you will be able to chalk out the meaning, or the information that you require to learn, or to learn, probably. All right, extensive reading. Now, this is the fourth type of reading, which is extensive reading. Now, this is very important because generally in our classes, in our academic work, we use extensive reading off and on. We have been using it without even knowing that it's a part of extensive reading. As you have already seen that it includes skimming, scanning, SQ3R. Although you are well aware with skimming and scanning in your first semester, but let's talk about it a bit more. All right, extensive reading, it says that extensive reading is carried out to achieve a general understanding of a text. It aims to build reader confidence and enjoyment. And also, extensive reading refers to gain a general overview of the contents. How it is going to, we have in extensive reading is skimming, right? What is skimming? Skimming is a quick reading to get to know the general meaning of passage, right? Or to gather the gist of the information. What is the gist of the information? The main idea of the information. Whatever is written in, you have seen the newspaper, right? The newspaper has a heading, right? It has heading which tells us that this is what the news is going to talk about. So that is the gist, that heading is the gist of the information. Then it says to know how the passage has organized the structure of the text, right? And then to get author's purpose, the right. As you know that it always happen that when an author writes something, he always or she always have a purpose behind his writing. So skimming gives us that purpose, that why the author has written, in case of news, that why the news the writer has written that news, or what is the purpose behind that, right? And while you are doing the skimming, you do not need to have each and every word to you do not need to understand each and every word, right? Just leave whatever is not being understood by you. You can come to it later on. All right, let's talk about bit about the examples of skimming. The examples of skimming may include newspaper, as I have mentioned earlier, or magazines, because you could quickly discover which article you would like to read in more detail, right? And that is also from the heading. Then business and travel brochures, because they you quickly get the information, whatever, or you are able to decide for the destination from on where you are going to stay, in where you are going to stay, or whatever you have to do in your travel brochure, let's say. The second subcategory is scanning. Scanning is a quick reading to find particular piece of information. This is very important, particular piece of information. It is unlike skimming, right? It is unlike skimming because in scanning you just go through the text or the piece of writing quickly, you just have to find your piece of information, which whatever is required by you, right? So it says to find specific detail you need. As I have just mentioned, that it talks about the purpose of scanning is to get your piece of information. You are not concerned about the rest of the details, but whatever you need, you are concerned about that, and you get that. It involves quick eye movement, not necessarily in linear fashion. You do not have to move from one line to another. You can skip, you can read the first line, and then you can skip, then you can go to the next paragraph, even because you are concerned about your own details, you are concerned about your own piece of information, and for that you have to be quick. Because if you are reading from line to line, obviously you are wasting your time, you are in which you can probably have to complete an assignment or whatsoever. Then he says the eye wander until the reader finds information, as I have just explained. Let's talk about about the examples of scanning. What are the examples of scanning? The examples can be um, what's on TV section in newspaper, right? Or in TV, or if you are finding somebody's name or number in telephone directory, so you just have to scan quickly so that you can get your required number and telephone address. All right. Beside this, also when you are looking for a word in dictionary, you are scanning, because you are skipping the unwanted words and you go directly to your wanted information. That is a good example of scanning, actually. Let's talk about SQ3R method. This is important because you have been doing, or you have been following this method since childhood, although you do not know it properly. Okay, what is SQ3R? It is a step-by-step strategic approach for learning and studying from textbooks. And where do you find textbooks? In your schools, right? So that is why it is mainly the practice you have been doing since ages, but you do not know about it. The SQ3R method is a step-by-step strategic approach for learning and studying from textbooks. It helps you to discover the important facts and ideas. SQ3R is an abbreviation to help you remember the steps and to make references to it simpler. And what is the abbreviation of SQ3R? S stands for survey, Q stands for question, and 3 R's, that are read, recite, and review. So SQ3R means survey, question, read, and review. Okay, now survey. This survey should take no more than 10 to 25 minutes, even on the longest chapter, right? The purpose of this survey, what is the purpose of this survey? Is to get a general idea of what is going to be about, what kind of information the author gives, or how many subtopics the information is broken down into, and how much time will you will have to spend reading it. That is before class, right? When, or before the preparation for your exams, that how many topics do you have, how you are going to arrange these things, and how much time will a certain subject take or certain question takes to be completed, right? It may include the chapter title, the introduction, the objective, the vocabulary summary, or review questions, or boldface headings and things like that. So this is about survey. The question part, the Q part of the SQ3R method. Turn each boldface heading into a question by using one of the following words, right? It says that, as you know, in your textbooks, there are always headings. The headings that indicates that what this topic is going to talk about. It says that you need to question those headings. How? By turning them into a question, that who is asking the question, or what the question is about, or where it is going to happen, or when it is going to happen, why, and how it is going to happen. You need to question those things. Only then you will be able to get your answers. How get your answers? By reading. This is important. You will um, when you will create a reason for your question, only then you will get your answer by reading, right? Actively read the section of text accompanying the heading for an answer. Why actively read? For an answer to the question you asked yourself in previous slide, right? The question that you have formed, you are supposed to get answer to that question by reading. The answer will usually be made up of the main idea of the paragraph and supporting details, right? Uh, and then you have to read the section to find the answer, just as I've explained just earlier, that answer to your all those the 5 W's and 1 H is by reading, right? You will answer those questions by reading. The purpose of reading is to find the answer to your question, as I have explained. Then the next point that we are going to discuss is recite. Recite the answer to each question to yourself. Put How are you going to do it? Put the answer in your own words or rephrase the author's words. Be sure that you can recall the answer, not just recognize the information or correct as correct. Write the question in your notebook along. This is a kind of you can say that this is a kind of exercise that you are going to do, you are supposed to do. That what is the exercise? That you should write the answer in your notebook along with a few keywords or phrases that summarize this answer. The purpose of doing this is to help you think about and understand what you have read, because you always understand a question, an answer which is answered in your own language, which is answered in simpler words which you are able to understand. When you rewrite or rephrase that what you have read, your comprehension will automatically improve. Okay? Okay. The last point of today's presentation, that is review. To review, cover the answer and ask yourself the question. If you cannot answer the question, look at your notes and test yourself again. Simple. Once you are sure that you know the answer and you understand the question and answer, check it off. And it is not only about writing or memorizing the answer, it is also about your preparing of presentation and your preparing of your assignment at this level. You always need to review your assignment and your presentation before submitting it, because we are humans, we always make errors, right? It is beyond our limit, or you can say it is beyond our help. We cannot help it. We are human beings, we always make errors. So it is always better, even in your exams, before handing over your answer sheet, teachers always ask you to review your work. हम आपको कहते हैं कि आप जो है री रीड कीजिए अपना वर्क. Why we say that? Because only then you will be able to find the mistakes in your paper, in your assignments, in your presentations. Then the purpose of reviewing is to help you prepare eventually for the test. Remember that very few people read textbooks for pleasure. They usually read to acquire information and remember and apply it in situation, in present situation, in their real life situation, right? Then reviewing helps you remember the information. When you will review, you will automatically save that information in your brain, somewhere in your brain. As previously I have in the previous slide I have given you the example of the 7 colors of rainbow. Because I have read it, I have retained it in my mind. Only that is the reason that I am able to re-talk about it now at this. Okay, let's see how much of the information you are able to retain from today's lecture. Let's take a quiz, a short, quick quiz to see if you are able to answer these questions. Describe the kind of reading for the following: a novel, a newspaper, a text in the class, the telephone directory, a train timetable, a recipe. Take your time. Tick tock, tick tock. Time up, time up, time up. Alright, let's see the answers. A novel. Yes, it is extensive reading. Why? Because you read for pleasure. A newspaper. Extensive reading. Why? Because, or it can be an example, if we talk about it further, it can be example of skimming. Why? Because it is a newspaper and you quickly go through it to get the general news for the day. And if you are looking for some specific section in that newspaper, then it will be scanning. A text in the class. Intensive, because small part of the text with rich information, that is intensive. And the telephone directory. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Scanning, you got it right. I hope you got it right. And then a train timetable. Tick tock, tick tock. Yes, it is skimming. A recipe. What do you think, it will be extensive or intensive? Let's see. Intensive. I hope all of you have got the answers right. Okay, it for today's lecture, and I hope you have a nice day ahead. Keep smiling and take very good care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.